Hey everybody, week 16, race week. Wow, it's finally here. You're probably, there's a mix of relief that it's here, and then there's also, for some of you, probably a great deal of tension, nervousness. And that's not a bad thing. I think that's a good thing to have that nervousness going into the race. If your first race, there's probably more nervousness, and that's okay too. So let's talk about what's important this week. Obviously, it's race week, and so you need to keep in mind that your fitness level is not going to improve at all in 5 days, in 7 days, right? So you're not going to be able to do anything fitness-wise that's going to make your race better. You're not going to be able to go out on a 60-mile ride and have that actually benefit you. If anything, workouts that leave you extra tired are going to take away from your race. So that's why you can't cram for an endurance event, as I like to say. So let's talk about what you can do. I'm going to skip to my number 2 here, which is short, intense workouts are going to be better for you than doing nothing. So instead of taking the day completely off, just do 15 minutes. And you might think, well, what's the point of 15 minutes? Just gets the blood flowing, gets rid of some of that nervous energy, right? And you can increase the intensity, but you also want to increase the recovery periods within the workout. So give yourself more recovery periods. And the workouts shouldn't be, super hard. They can be moderately hard to hard, and they can be a little bit harder, but because your intensity intervals are shorter, they don't end up becoming really that hard. And because you give yourself more recovery between the work intervals, it keeps the overall workload really down. So really short bursts of high intensity. As far as like durations for the workouts, could be anywhere from, like I said, 15 minutes, but 30 minutes to an hour and a half, depending on your fitness level and how much time you have. Some of you may have already shipped your bike to the race, and so you can maybe do some bike workouts if you belong to a gym, quick little workout on the bike there, or just do swimming and running. Really, if there is any discipline that you can maybe get some improvement going into the race, it's going to be swimming. So if you haven't been swimming a lot, you could add a little bit, a couple more swim workouts, because those are the least taxing on the body. In order, swimming least taxing, biking second, and then running third. You don't want to add a lot of extra run workouts or harder run workouts to this week, because that's going to leave you fatigued for the race. And then when you're doing these shorter, higher intensity workouts, don't pull muscle, right? You're not going out there to run the fastest quarter mile that you've ever ran in your life. That's not the point of it. The point is to sort of rev your engine, but you're not going as hard as you can. There's no sense in trying to create some new PR in a quarter mile or a mile, because you have all this fitness and you have all this rest and recovery, so that you are actually capable of probably setting some PRs, like even in a 5K, because of your high level of fitness and volume. But you don't want to do that, because you want to keep your eye on the prize, which is the race, right? And then that leads me to really was my first point, which is be safe. Keep your workouts on the boring side. Stick to maybe places to run that are safe, as opposed to, say, maybe trail running, where there's more possibility of spraining an ankle, something like that. Stick to routes that you've done before. Keep it kind of boring, keep it safe. Cycling, if you're out biking in high traffic areas, like if you live in bigger cities, try to pick some routes that are low traffic areas. When you're coming up to stop signs, be extra vigilant about stopping at stop signs. There was a story, I think it was maybe like the 1993 Ironman race, and Greg Welch, who won in 94, the year before, it was just 2 weeks before the race, and he was out riding, and a car ran a stop sign and hit him, and he didn't get to do the race. It's those kind of weird freak accidents that you want to just keep a lookout for. It's also a good time to skip some of the fun activities that your friends might be doing. So if you're doing a race and it's warm weather where you're at right now, and your friends are all going out water skiing, and there's knee boarding involved or inner tubing, and you think, oh, that looks like a lot of fun, and then you pull a muscle or mess up your knee. I had a friend who his wife was knee boarding, and the board completely torqued her femur and broke her femur. So just, things like that, right? Those are the kind of crazy things that you just, because you put in all this work, you're a week from your race. So save the kneeboarding for next week, right? Save the trail running, that trail that you've never been to. Save it for after the race, right? Keep yourself safe so that you can do the race. You put all this work in for it. And then in the 1 to 2 days before the race, and this depends a lot on the race, if you can go for a swim at the same swim venue as the race, and even, as much as you can, the same direction the course goes. You don't have to do the whole course. But get an idea of where the sun is at. So that'll help you in the race. Sometimes you're starting off directly into the sun, you can't see anything, so you can get an idea of what you can see looking to your left or your right. Or the shore, you might get an idea of where the wind is coming from and how that's creating, little waves. Because if you only know how to breathe to the right and the wind is pushing the water from the right, that's going to slap into your face as you breathe. You're going to be a little bit better off breathing away from that wind side, things like that. There's a race in Hawaii, Lava Man, where you're coming in to the beach and the sun's coming up and you really can't see all that well. And I figured out over the years that if I keep the sun in my left eye, right between my eyeball and my nose, then I know that I'm swimming straight in. So use the sun as a navigational tool, because if the sun starts to drift over here, then I'm swimming too far to the right. And if the sun starts to drift over here, then I'm swimming too far to the left. And those are things that you really can only pick up. And that's why I say the same time of day as ideally as possible, so you get an idea of the position of the sun. And if you can, you really want to try to finish like maybe 5 minutes directly into where the finish of the race is, so that you can see, are there any big landmarks, that you're looking at as you sight to breathe that can help you swim straight, okay? The day before the race, a quick little bike ride just to check your bike, run through all your gears, make sure it's shifting well, make sure that the brakes aren't rubbing, do a little quick bike inspection, because you don't want any of that to come up on race day. A lot of times when you travel, something might bump up against one of the brakes, or maybe you took the wheel off and you're in a hurry at registration, you put it back on, and then you don't even notice it is barely rubbing on the brake. I've had friends who are in even an Ironman and feeling like they're going kind of slow, and at mile 40 they look back and their brake has been rubbing a little bit, right? And so that's slowing them down. When you do rack your bike, make sure you rack it in an easy gear. This is something that unfortunately happens. Used to happen more when we didn't have to rack our bikes the night before the race. So you'd take your bike out and ride it, in the hour or two leading up to the race. And then you'd be out there in a big gear because you'd be going really fast and your mind's on the race, and you forget and you rack your bike, and it's in the big chain ring and a small cog in the back, and you go to ride, you go to start, and it's like the pedals don't really go anywhere because you're in that too hard of a gear, especially if you're going uphill at all. So rack your bike in an easy gear, that way in the race, you get out, you ride it, you're spinning, and then it's much easier to shift to a harder gear and go a little bit faster than it is when your legs start to go slow. You see sometimes people's chains will come off in the first 50 yards, and a lot of times that's because they're in the wrong gear, the big chain ring, and they go to shift and they shift too quick and the chain falls off. So I just saw that a couple weeks ago in a race that I did. And then for biking and running, also, if you're at the race site and the weather's not going to change between, say, Friday or Saturday and then on a Sunday race or whatever, if the race is Saturday, Thursday, Friday, pay attention to the temperature and pay attention to the conditions. I live up here in the Pacific Northwest, and just 2 weeks ago I did a race, and I did it with a long sleeve bike jersey because it was 55 degrees. And looking at the temperature, it was only going to be 58 degrees when I was due to get off of my bike, right? So it's going to be between 50 and 58 for my whole bike ride. Well, I would never go on a training ride with just a little triathlon singlet on when it's 55 degrees. So a lot of people in the race were wearing arm warmers. So think about the conditions of your race. If it's really hot, what would you wear? Same thing, So think about how you would train. Obviously in the race, your adrenaline's going to be up and you'll create a little bit more body heat because of that. But if the temperature is low enough, or if there's a possibility of rain, you want to be prepared for that. Maybe you have a light vest or a jacket that you can put in a pocket or wear if the conditions are bad. at Ironman Canada in Whistler about maybe 3 or 4 years ago. It rained and it hailed and it was mid 50s, and a lot of people went out on the bike ride without any kind of rain gear, just a little triathlon singlet, and several people that I know got hypothermic and actually didn't finish the race. And the people who do better in that race, oddly or maybe unexpectedly, were the people who were wearing full fingered bike gloves, a jacket, things that kept them warmer for the bike ride so they could get off and run, versus the people who got so cold out there that they didn't continue. Okay, and obviously that depends a bit on the distance of the race, but for you guys for a half Ironman, it's a fairly significant distance. So think about those conditions. How long are you going to be on the bike ride? In many cases, can be anywhere from, like, say, 2:30 real super fast to 4 hours maybe, but how long are you going to be on the bike ride, and what are the weather conditions going to be, and how do you need to dress so that you have your optimal race? Okay, those are really the main things. It should keep it fun, keep it light. Don't do any. It's not the time to start CrossFit if you've never done CrossFit, just because you have all this energy and you're not really working out. It's not the time to start some extreme this or that, or a diet. It's not the time to start a new diet. Try to keep your foods consistent, keep your hydration levels, the same as they've been. It's not the time to start drinking 120 ounces of water a day if you've only been drinking 60 ounces of water a day, right? So and that's what happens. The mind starts to go a little crazy. We start to think, oh, well, what if I just do this? What if I just do that? Keep everything pretty much as normal as you can, all right? And then stay safe so you stay healthy. And then on your workouts, keep them shorter, but you can up the intensity and up the rest. All right, that's it. Go ahead and have a great race. And as always, I always love to hear about races. So drop me a line. Let me know how your race went. Thanks.